Welcome to the May 2nd Merrimack Conservation Commission meeting. Start time of 6:31. Couple of announcements. Seedling giveaway is Saturday, May 7th at the Courier Orchard, which is on the Peasley Road. 9 a.m. start time, and several varieties of seedlings. And again, seedlings, maybe 6-8 inches tall at best, so don't expect to be, showing up to get 30-foot tall trees. They're seedlings. Also, a reminder that we have open positions available on the Conservation Commission. Apply to Becky Thompson in the town manager's office. And any public comment out there?
Excuse Tim.
Oh, yes. Sorry, Tim Tenhave, the chair, is excused this evening. So I've had to take his spot. Any public comment? No? Okay, we'll jump into the first statutory advisory business, which is BAE Systems.
That's us. Clipboard? Over there.
There's less.
Have you signed on a piece of paper?
It might be.
You just put it. Let me see if there's one. We normally have a clipboard sign in. I need to see if we have one. If not, we'll just have to sign in on. And this one right here.
Got one.
Ready?
Whenever you are.
Okay. My name is Brian Jones, professional engineer with Allen and Major Associates. We're civil engineers and land surveyors, landscape architects, structural engineers. I'm here tonight with Dennis Regan. He's with BAE Systems. The project that is before the town is a building addition to what's referred to as the MER, or Merrimack 23 building. And I do have a board here of the overall campus of BAE Systems. So the Daniel Webster Highway is down the bottom, and there's a number of buildings across the site and facilities. This is Technology Park Drive here. And this is building number 23. And there's two additions proposed, 2,000 square foot addition in the front and a 10,500 square foot addition in the rear. All the work is within currently developed area. The back is the parking lot, so we're putting a building where the parking is today. And similarly in the front, it's a paved area that we're going to expand the building footprint. There's actually a reduction in parking spaces. There was 141 on the site, and it's not required by zoning. So there's about a 10-space reduction in parking. It's still adequate for the project. There is a net increase in impervious area of 2,800 square feet. And I have a site plan here as well. So we had filed for site plan review with the planning board and met with them a couple weeks ago, and they voted to grant conditional approval of the project, and one of the conditions is input from the Conservation Commission, so that's why we're here tonight. Again, the project is 2 building additions. This is sort of an enlargement of the number 23. We are going to add a little parking area here, connected out to the perimeter road, and that is pretty much where our increase in the impervious area is. And to mitigate for that, we are proposing a small retention basin here that would infiltrate, has an overflow that connects to the existing drainage. I also brought an enlargement of the town's GIS just to show proximity to possible wetland areas. So this is our building here. There's definitely a wet area down at the bottom of what's called here Robert Milligan Parkway, but it's also that technology parkway. So this is our site. The blue hatched is where we're going to be doing work. That's basically the limit of our work. Includes a duct bank out to another building, but the building additions will sit here and here. So this red line is 100 feet. This thinner line is 150 feet. So we're about 200 feet away from that wetland area, and about the same thing from this little pocket wetland in the back here too. And also quite a bit of elevation difference. So we're up around 202 here, and this is down around 160. So there's a good 40 feet in elevation difference between our site and these two pockets. That's pretty much it. We did submit a stormwater management plan in accordance with Merrimack's bylaw for disturbances over 10,000 square feet, and in that it talks about our proposed mitigation for the added impervious and operation and maintenance for the site. And that's pretty much it in a nutshell.
Any comments? Yes.
Thanks. I just wondered if you could show me and explain how you're relocating the existing drain line. Could you just point it out on the map? I'm a visual learner, so that would be great.
So there is currently an 18-inch concrete pipe that comes right across here, and it falls within the footprint of the building addition. So we would move that to this dark line here. And the connection point would be the same. The area going to it is the same. There's really no change. It's parking lot today, so it's going to be building rooftop when we're done. There's actually a little bit of stone area, so you could say that there's a slightly less impervious area going to this drain manhole. But it's just being shifted south about 15 feet.
And you expect that to catch the water coming off the roof at that point?
Yes. So there will be internal roof leaders. It's a flat roof. And there's a roof drain shown on the plan, and it ties into a manhole and connects to that drain line.
Thank you.
In the overall, as looking at the plans, the overall is a net negative.
For total runoff, yes. We actually do provide a decrease in rate and volume of runoff because we're going to add this small retention basin that basically captures this area of the world and infiltrates it.
And where does that eventually end up?
If this were to fill up, then there's an existing catch basin here, and then that one flows off to that larger off-site wetland area.
Okay.
I didn't see a lot of plantings plan or anything like that.
We did submit a landscape plan.
Miss it?
It's sheet
6A.
6. So what the landscape architect is proposing here around our basin is a wildflower seed mix. And it's primarily a Lohmann seed plan. We are removing pavement along the front of the building here. This is all pavement today. So that is added greenscape, and that will be lawn, just for ease of maintenance. But this area around the basin is a wildflower seed mix, and that's shown on the following page. It's the New England wildflower seed mix.
Do you have a proposed fertilization? I didn't. I see the one note on 6B.
There is a note regarding fertilizer in the landscape notes. It's these notes here. Talks about slow release organic fertilizers. Gives a suggested aeration program. Things that the landscape architect thought were appropriate for the site.
We have a pretty standard low phosphate, low release nitrogen, or low or no phosphate, particularly when you're draining off towards wetlands. So there was no, well, I didn't see usually it's marked out a 10-10-10 or however it's marked out, and you guys made a standard comment about just organic fertilizers, which are great. I mean, if it's all manure or whatever, I just want to make sure we're not producing we've been able to save some of the local contractors quite a deal of money on their fertilizer bills by not fertilizing soil that didn't need it.
Right.
And by testing the soil first to see what is it missing. Instead of fertilizing something, it's already fertile soil and you don't need to do anything. So just more of a thought to keeping the plan up. Making it sustainable. Sorry, Chris.
There is a note on here. Shall not exceed nitrogen phosphate potassium ratio of 1:1:1.
Oh, okay.
That is, it's triple 10 fertilizer mix, considered a low nitrogen mixture. It should be ratio, not ration.
Yeah, right. Okay. Thank you.
Spell check.
Yeah, I mean that's obviously one of our only concern. But one of our big concerns is on now. Yes, you might want to consider testing the soil for what it has, because you may not need to add any fertilizer at all.
Agreed.
And certainly, if you're washing, when we get some good rain, and on that site in particular, you get some good rain, and it does wash down that wetland. So.
Any other comments, questions?
So a big duck bank, huh?
I'm sorry?
You're putting in a big duck bank between, was that 23, is that 15? You're trying to,
It's
that's
not
for
that big. There's only 2 conduits.
you're going to try to get a common ground between those 2 buildings?
It's for fiber optic,
Oh, okay.
I think there are only 2 3-inch conduits.
4-inch. Yeah, I think one's a spare.
So what's the pleasure of the commission?
It's pretty straightforward. It's kind of seemingly outside of anything that we're really too concerned about.
Are you going back to the planning board? No.
No. Ideally, the commission would send a letter to the planning department saying we've reviewed it. We have this comment or no comments. And that's it. Our next step is to file for a building permit. So your comments are part of our conditional approval.
Understood. Okay. Yeah, I don't think we have
Any other comments besides fertilizer that we want to write to the planning board?
They even have a note for the wildflower mix part, just saying that fertilizer is not required unless the soils are particularly infertile.
No.
I mean, that is our policy. It comes up all the time, so.
Yeah.
And we do typically request the topsoil that's brought on site that they provide a submittal and testing. And there is a
There you go.
specification that already requires that you have to bring in fertile soil. You can't bring in just brown dirt. So usually that's just enough. And they don't have to supplement or add.
Good.
Great. Okay. We'll write a comment towards the planning board that we don't have any changes.
Perfect.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you again.
Next, we have Meridian Land Services. Northview Homes.
Long time no see.
Good evening. One copy each. And one copy each. Brought my own pen. Thank you.
This is number 2 on our statutory advisory business for a proposed development called Greenfield Farms.
Thank you, Matt. In addition to what you likely have printed out 11 by 17s of what I submitted this evening, I've also just handed out a simple exhibit that's on one page as opposed to switching back and forth. So it's rather simple. This is a proposed 66-lot planned residential development. It's in between the preliminary and final stages of the planning board. We have gone before the planning board twice, once for just a simple concept to get the initial feedback and reaction. We recently went before the planning board for a more formal discussion where we discussed some waiver possibilities and where we were on the approach to see if there was any other comment before we started our final design and then supplied the planning board with our final application. I felt it was worthwhile, given the size and scope and nature of this project, that we come before you tonight before we start our final design, just to see if you have any further comments that we can incorporate or should incorporate within our design. With that being said, some of you may or may not be aware that this property and properties had come very close to planning board approval for a subdivision or two concurrent subdivisions back around 2009. It was nearly through the process except for sewer. They were, at that time, the applicant was seeking a cross-country sewer that was going to cross Bad Boosick Brook and Riddle Brook and get out to Pearson Road, and that just was not supported in any way by town staff departments. And so this project actually was withdrawn at that time. At this point, there's a feasible and approved sewer extension right to the doorstep of this property on Whispering Pines. That makes the rest of this project feasible, and so therefore that's what we're pursuing at this time. What you see in the simple exhibit is 4 separate tax map parcels. The ownership is a little strange. It's actually 3, if I'm not mistaken, separate owners that are in agreements to pursue this project. And combined total is 130 acres. There's a 7-acre tract up in the northwest corner. As you see, it's labeled Parcel A. That would be retained by the Swensons. They have the most of their farm buildings, etc., just over the town line in Bedford. However, some of their buildings and infrastructure is on their Merrimack parcel, and so that 7 acres will be retained by the Swenson family. It's a standalone residential lot at 7 acres because we have to have it be a standalone lot. It just happens to be 7 acres in size.
Is that 7 acres, is that only the Merrimack side, or is that the total lot?
It's just the Merrimack side. Yeah,
Just this section of it is the...
Interesting question. I don't know how much acreage they retain in Bedford now, but because of the overlap and how they
Right.
used the property historically, they need to retain that portion. So exclusive of Parcel A, I'll share some numbers for you. The overall total, the gross, is 123 acres. Of that, the usable acres is just shy of 61 usable. Once again, usable for terms of determining yield. You need to take out the floodplain, the wetlands, the land subject to overhead transmission line easements, and then steep slopes. That usable area with sewer and water into this project creates a yield of 66 lots. The open space required under the ordinance is 61.6 acres. At this point, we're anticipating about 85 acres. So instead of the 50%, we think we're going to be around the 70% range. And that's really some of the focus I wanted to talk about tonight. The area of development is going to be as southerly as we can make it. The previous concepts back in 2009 somewhat pushed up towards Babusak Brook. In some of the areas where you might see, we have a line labeled top of slope. Some of that was pushed a little bit closer. There was drainage that was much closer to the brook. We've pulled that back and tried to condense it as much as possible. So we anticipate not breaching that quote-unquote top of slope. And the slope is anywhere from 8 to 12 feet up to 15 to 20 feet elevation difference. To the plateau as you approach the brook. It's not just straight down to the brook, but generally at the toe of that slope is effectively the wetlands. So the approach has been to minimize any impacts on the development area. It's pretty strange that a project of 66 lots like this, there's no wetlands impact. In fact, the property was reviewed back in the first go-around circa 2007 or 8 with wetlands from one company. They didn't find any up on the upper plateau. We've also reviewed it more recently and did not find any wetlands either. So this 2 different firms in 2 different time periods have agreed that the wetlands are indeed at the toe of the slope and do not exist more southerly than that. So the open space, there's some really good habitat along both Babusak Brook and Riddle Brook. The open space per the ordinance, you can quite frankly do nothing with it and have it just be passive, natural as it may lie today. You could introduce some limited recreation, private to the landowners and or access for the public. In this case, there's going to be a mix, or at least a mix is what we're proposing. You'll note along Pearson Road, there's a current field area, agricultural field, that we show 2 potential playing fields. At this time, it's the desire of the applicants to convey to the town just shy of what I think is about 9 acres, so that if the town would like to develop that property for playing fields, then the town may do so. I think at this point we'll probably create a subdivision of open space. I've done this in the past on some projects where we don't just have a single open space lot, there may be multiple open space lots. And in this case, there might be multiple open space lots, and each open space lot might have a different type of use that's allowed, or in this case, if it's gifted to the town, then the town can have some parameters of its use. Recreation, active recreation like fields, is a legitimate and authorized use under the ordinance. We haven't asked Parks and Rec about this yet. This is sort of a step-by-step process where we're considering it. We shared it with the planning board. Now I'm here before you to share it with you. And based on comments we get each step of the way, then we'll take that next step with that next party that might be involved. So it's a thought that's out there. So that might be conveyed to the town for public recreation use. The balance of the land from the top of the slope to the north is really, to me, passive recreation, without necessarily creating a trail system necessarily. But there is one interesting aspect. When the Babusick Brook culvert on Wire Road was upgraded, the town received an easement by the Swensons. And that easement allowed for access to and maintenance of the edge of the brook adjacent to this replaced culvert. And it's a rather large culvert. It's not your typical just small driveway culvert. It's, I don't know the size, but it's fairly substantial. In the language of that easement, it almost suggests the town can have a wider range of uses and or assign it for general public access. The way that's written is a little unclear to me. So I need to verify what the purpose and intent was, but you could almost suggest that it was for people to, say, launch a kayak or a canoe. I understand that might be or could have been the intent of the Swensons, that they were agreeable to that use, but it didn't specifically say public recreation in the document. So I have to check on that. Furthermore, just slightly to the north on Wire Road, there's a bit of a gravel turnout. Now, that gravel turnout would almost suggest that somebody could go drop a canoe or a kayak down at Babusick Brook, drive their car a couple hundred feet up the road, and just turn off and park in that gravel turnout. But it doesn't say anything of that in the easement document, and it's pretty ambiguous. Is that what that's there for? Is that the purpose? Or could that possibly have been like the trailer area with the office for the construction work, for that culvert replacement? All of these things I'm tracking down, but I don't have answers yet. My point being is that whether the public has access to the open space by some ball fields or playing fields along Pearson Road, or whether it's truly legitimate along Wire Road, I think it's probably agreeable that the public can have some level of passive recreation use. And by that I mean no further infrastructure, necessarily trail construction, bridges, footbridges, and things of that nature throughout the open space that's north of the top of the slope. Internal of that, there's a small area that's potentially going to be used for the residents to have some place to congregate as a community, a neighborhood meeting place, and that may include some a dog run area that's fenced in, or possibly some picnic tables or a gazebo of something to have a central place to locate on a nice day.
Where do you
Where's
think that's
that?
going to be?
If you look between Wire Road and the power easement, there's a rectangle
Yep.
that's
okay.
just next to the potential drainage area.
Is
It's
that where
located.
the machines are now?
I'm sorry?
Is that where the machines are now?
The machines being the laydown area that the town's using in the gravel pit.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. The way that is operating, and I don't know that there's a specific term license that the town has. Now, again, that's the Swenson property. Swensons own that. And that's being used for material and storage and laydown area for a couple of town projects.
Yep.
That's another thing on my list to find out fairly soon about what the duration is on that. As we get into permitting, once again, there's no wetlands permit for this because there's no impacts. However, we certainly have an AOT permit. And I need to make sure that we understand the differentiation between the proposed subdivision use and its impacts versus what is ongoing in the pit and who has responsibility for certain activities in there and for what time period. So I'll be pursuing that, but I don't have the answers on that just yet. As far as the drainage goes, the paramount item for how we are handling it before it then may reach ultimately the Babusick Brook like it may do now. Infiltration is the key word that AOT is really having us pursue. That's our preferred drainage method. The soils are excellent up here. Again, there's no wetlands. This is a very strange circumstance for me to have so many lineal feet of road and 66 lots and not have a single wetlands impact. If it's not infiltration in these drainage basins, it may be what's known as a wet basin that's just behind the recreation area, just because of the nature of the soils that were removed from there and how the pit's being used. I'm not sure. It's no longer going to be in its natural state. It has been excavated, materials removed, and we don't know what the quality is of the material yet at the lowest level where they're operating. We don't know if we're going to fill more in to bring it back higher or if we're going to leave it where it is and modify that. We'll be doing some test pits in the next week or two in that pit to gauge if infiltration is still reasonable or if we have to do some other method. Suffice to say that, again, AOT wants wherever that raindrop falls, they want it to be entering back into the groundwater at that location as close as possible. That's really the driving force. So that's what we have to follow.
I understand that there's some elevation alteration that you're going to be aiming for.
Within the road system and lots, et cetera?
Yes.
Yeah, in fact, when the sewer was extended to this area, we had hoped we'd have a little bit more play. Another odd thing about this property is it's rather flat. It's extremely flat throughout the most of this plateau. And where you bring in sewer, and sewer has to have a constant grade, and you're really driven by the depth of the sewer and the grade of the sewer pipes. Back in the first go-around with this project, the sewer was, quote-unquote, would have come out of the ground, and they were having to pump a lot of these units or these homes into a system so that it could go gravity to then get pumped someplace else. It was really a really complex design. In order to achieve the gravity system, fully gravity without any pumps whatsoever, we have to create grade on site. So sometimes we might want to balance the site from cuts and fills so you don't have to bring in material or remove excess material from a site. We are creating I don't want to say a roller coaster, but smooth ups and downs to direct drainage, plus to make sure we have the cover over the pipes. Under a road, you need 6 feet of cover over your sewer pipe, and that's basically because of freezing in our climate. In this case, there's 1 or 2 rows that we have to create additional fill, unfortunately, to make that separation. And that's just the way it has to be given the nature of bringing the sewer to the site and then distributing that sewer within the site. So I don't know if that addresses what you thought you heard.
It does.
Why do you say unfortunately?
Well, we had hoped that the sewer line extension might be a little bit deeper than it currently is, but the nature of the distance and the grade dictates a certain height of the sewer when you reach. This is effectively the end point of the line, if you will. And so the end point of the line will be the highest because the sewer is gravity. And so when you reach a certain point, that's the high point of the sewer. That's this site. And so because the site's so flat, you don't have additional differences of topography on this land to then accommodate that height and continue with the cover. So there might be a corner of, if you look right centrally on the proposed lots, there's a lot identifier 7C-30. There's a cul-de-sac with a grouping of lots around that. Towards the end of that, we might have another 4.5 feet of fill over the natural ground right there to accommodate the road and the sewer cover. That's not necessarily uncommon. However, quite frankly, from a dollars and cents standpoint, if you don't have to bring in fill, that means you don't spend as much money. It's more of an economic driver than it is anything else. On the flip side of that, if you bring in fill and you have walkouts created along more homes, well, walkouts actually are more desirable by most buyers, most people in the marketplace, because then you have the functionality of your what people would call your basement, and the back of your house you have additional windows and egress that's actually more desirable from a marketable standpoint. So while it might cost you a little bit more on the road fill, you might actually have nicer homes that might sell for more money. Now, that's not my business. My part of this is the design and approvals part, but
So unfortunately, it was from a dollars and cents
yeah,
standpoint.
yeah, and
Okay.
and it's really driven by how flat this whole suddenly 35 or so acres is. It's really remarkable to have this flat and dry of a plateau, and then utilize that and protect the rest. So it's, from that standpoint, I thought it was going to be a little easier in my first presentation to the planning board, but that didn't quite turn out to be the case.
So is this topo map that's on here, is this what it is now, or is this what you're expecting it to be?
In that plan set, that would be what we have now. Yeah. You'll see. Oh, in that case,
So-
that you do see some proposed grades, yes, but not. We don't grade out the lots necessarily at this stage because we don't know who may be building what house where.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, the road C, which is the one you were talking about, those lots right there, 47 through 51, are about the highest point of grade slope. So
Yeah.
those are the ones you're gonna be adding to.
We'll be adding at the front, correct?
Adding at the front, and so you're going to be draining towards the brook?
Actually, the road drainage will not be going towards the brook. We have 4 areas identified on this plan, and that's where the road drainage will go. As far as individual lot development, I don't know how those lots will be developed at this point. I can't say if a single lot will be fully sloping way towards the brook, or the front yard might be sloping towards the street and the backyard might be sloping to the brook.
Okay.
I can't say. That's individual house lot development. That's hypothetical at this point until somebody buys the lot, and then the buyer drives what type of house, how they want it situated, and the grade changes individually.
So this is not proposed to be on spec, this is gonna be custom homes?
Sure. There might be one or some amount of spec homes just to get things underway. That's typical, but I can't. They're not going to be building them en masse spec.
Could you explain that to me one more time? How, because my concern is bringing in the fill and how that would affect the drainage towards the brook. So you said that and I'm looking at the cul-de-sac C, and you said that it's going to be higher at 55 and 43 toward the road?
The road itself,
Yes.
all the road drainage, all the road runoff
Yep.
is a closed drainage system
Okay.
with curbs. It will be collected and then brought into the infiltration basins or the wet basin that will handle road drainage specifically.
Okay.
Now, the front yards, generally, developers like to have a positive grade going from the road to the garage, which means the garage is slightly higher than the road.
Yeah.
And that would suggest that the front yards would drain more so towards the street often, where the backyards, in a walkout especially, that would drain back the other way. So in this case, once again, that's hypothetical. Somebody might want to dictate that they have a different house layout that would alter that typical situation, but I can't say because it's, once again, it's personal preference as buyers come in and look at each lot and say, this is what I'd like
And
to
you've
do.
got personal preferences for lawn fertilization right next to the brook.
Services.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, really what we should
Yeah.
be thinking is the back row
Yes.
of houses, the backside of their roof and their backyard is going to be going towards
The brook.
the brook,
Potentially, yeah.
potentially.
Right.
They could,
It's quite possible, sure. Yeah.
they could, slope all the way up.
That is the steepest part of that whole area. out there,
Yeah.
is that
You
back
see it
ridge.
drop.
So you were saying there's no wetlands, is that only in the development
Yeah, I
area
meant
or
in-
anywhere?
I mean,
In the property.
there's tremendous wetlands
Okay.
associated with Babusak and Riddle Brooks, absolutely. However, there's no wetlands in the area being developed, which
Okay.
is, there's no impacts. There's no need or requirement to file for a DES wetlands permit.
Big deer locations.
Well, that's
That's
what
huge,
I was
yeah.
thinking. And but that land up there is going to be owned collectively by all these homeowners?
That's something I don't know for sure at this point. That's one of the options. It can be owned as a single entity can own it.
Okay.
It could be owned fractionally by each of the lot owners, so 1/66th share per house lot. It could be conveyed to the town. There's options that I don't know yet. The one certainty that we'd like to consider is an option to convey what the ball fields would be along Pearson to the town to the tune of about 9 acres. So that's why I think there will be multiple open space lots, and those open space lots may have different types of ownership and different types of uses specified with those. So sorry to
Good
cut
luck
you off.
getting the ball fields on them after the land's been gifted.
Yeah, right.
That could be
Well, it's not the first time I've heard it, and it's,
understood. And not that I want to try to sell you on it, but the applicant has made a commitment, and I've shared this with the planning board, to do some grading out there, donate both machine and personnel time to rough grade ball fields too. But that's something far in the future. It's just something that he said he feels is the right thing to do. I will obviously note that I'm well aware of the fertilizer restriction preferences of the commission. Also, hay versus straw. I'm well aware of that. I've said in the past that while obviously you're an advisory commission and I'm aware of things, I am happy to relate that to the planning board, and I have in the past, and they've received your memos. It's just a tough thing, once again, as far as from an enforcement standpoint, that how far can
Right.
we, as the applicant team seeking an approval, push that and try to get that out there and known. So I'm agreeable to do my part to make sure that everybody's aware of your requests. I just can't guarantee that some things can make it into the plan set as requirements, and certainly I don't know that they can make it into the deeds as each lot gets sold.
I think the best
so-
we can do is hope that, is try to get it onto the plan for construction. And once it becomes personal property,
Yeah. Understood.
we're hoping people to, just are smart.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
especially along the brook there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you surveyed along that brook, its entirety?
Not me personally, not our firm. We picked a lot of this data up over the years from one of the original companies that did some of the base work was True Engineering, and they're no longer in business. CLD had the project for a period of time, but they really didn't get into the design of it. We went out there and we double-checked the wetlands, all of the topography, slopes and property lines in the area of development. So we've done verification work or direct work ourselves, but we have not necessarily gone along the entire edge of Babusa Brook.
Because there's a lot of activity down there, a lot of wildlife activity through there.
Oh, sure, I bet.
And even I was a little surprised to see Willowbridge Road on here, because I don't believe that really exists anymore. Technically, I think it's an abandoned road.
Which one is that?
Willowbridge Road right here. That's
Okay.
It's still there. You can go out there if you know it's a road. You can go look. Oh yeah, okay, that's a road. But it's someone's. They mow it regularly.
This would
It's
be-
grass.
When we look at things,
Yeah.
we consider this public right-of-way.
Yeah.
Just like Whispering Pines Lane, by
Right.
this plan, it might suggest you can drive through.
Yeah. No, you can't.
Well, obviously, you can't.
Yeah.
So we look, this is a public right-of-way that is shown on here, not necessarily active and usable roads.
I'm saying so. There's an awful lot of beaver activity through there, and we've done some reclamation work out. Willowbridge Road is actually where they're making quite a lot of damming, and it dams up all the way back up into this under the
new culvert.
road.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and they're active.
sure.
And so if you've got the topography, you don't have an issue here, but if you're going to put that type of development here, we may want to think of some way of into the plan, having some kind of a bridge or something across there, because people are going to go through that brook. People are going to go down in there.
Go through the brook in what way?
There's going to
Recreate.
they're going to recreate down there.
The general public will be what are they going? How are they going to cross?
Well, exactly.
Across the brook.
That's what I'm saying. It's. I don't think we can really enforce that anyway, but that might be something worthwhile to, especially if that back property is going to be potentially, 1/66 owned by all this cluster. Maybe want to think of some way of trying to get across that brook, and keep people out of the water, because it gets deep. It gets deep and flows a lot. There's a lot.
I have to say, I'm not entirely following you.
You've got, if this is owned 166.
Yes,
That brook cuts the whole neighborhood off from this whole
yes.
property. There'd be a great way to get across there. It'd be great to find some way to get across there.
Yeah.
And he says that because he's seen people do similar things. That's why
we know
he's saying
people are out
it.
there now. I know people use it now.
I
It's going
can assure you that's going to be in no way be part of this proposal to create any type of crossing across Babusick Brook.
That's going to be one of our Our problems
Again, there's a
to
permit
deal with.
problem.
Oh, so we don't have a wetlands permit now. There's no need to. In this case, we'd be having to
Right, that's what I'm saying.
build
That's-
access through wetlands to get to a bridge that would cost a fortune
Yes.
to cross a brook that there's no need to cross. So
It's going to be ugly.
I can assure you that there's no
I know.
there's
Yeah.
no
Well,
proposal
we
to
could
do
still
anything.
make the recommendation.
Yeah, I know.
We have
but
every
it's-
right
it's,
to make that recommendation. They
Unless
can
all
tell
this
us to go
land is
pound tar, but we can make the
donated
recommendation.
to the Conservation Commission, and we
Well,
can.
no, I'm just saying it's.
There still could be some
Cut it
level
off.
of there still could be some level of easement over, even if it is held in common 166th interest. It still could have a separate conservation easement over it, if that was deemed appropriate. That's one more way of different types of uses and ownerships of the open space, but.
Right, and then we really will be us dealing with it.
Oh, we will.
Yeah.
I mean, we think we got a motorized problem in Greater Woods.
Well, can you convey it in the deed that the land is to be left alone? Like,
Well,
no,
it's-
completely for nature and not for people?
Yes, but in the same sense we were just talking about enforcement of, say, fertilizer use. Yeah, it can be in the deed and it can be legally binding, but yet it's the enforcement of that that's really some of the difficulty. So I understand some of the comments,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. Well, I mean, if that was in the deed, though, we could put up no trespassing signs.
It will, and sometimes it's just an education piece,
Yeah.
and signage along the buffer could be something that we could comment and we could ask for.
absolutely.
I mean, education is a lot of it. Some people just don't understand. I'm dumping my leaf and lawn clippings
I
over
see a
this
lot of
hill,
that
and I'm
happening
watching it
here.
roll down into the
Yeah.
water.
Yeah.
They just don't understand that
I
that's
see
a bad
this.
thing.
I see this daily in my job.
So maybe just the education
Yeah.
piece is what we ask
Well,
for.
At the least, I think we should ask for that. You can
And-
ask for
and
pie in
again,
the
I-
sky
Yeah, I
stuff.
know, I
Gage,
know.
you can ask for whatever you
Yeah, you
want.
could certainly-
I don't mean to say.
No, but
I don't mean to say you can't
Put
ask,
it on
but-
a construction plan. I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
That's all right,
You
'cause
know,
I-
did you look at your? did
I'm
you
here
look
to
at
encourage you, Gage. You asked for the size,
I
the shape
can
of a
see the-
culvert for the turtles, too.
I can
said
see
you-
the bridge
You gotta ask for it, or else you won't get it.
completely just
Yeah, it's
out of scope.
Yeah.
But I can see a signage along a certain wetland buffer be something reasonable to ask for.
Then you're welcome to put it in a comment.
I'm just thinking of another headache.
Just out of curiosity, what's about the makeup as far as pine versus hardwood in this area?
It's predominantly pine, from what I understand.
So are you going to try to take down as little as possible, or are you going to just
don't-
kind of go in and raise?
I
or-
don't get to make those decisions.
Okay.
I understand the comment and the concern. The way we've laid out the streets, and there's one through road that goes from Wire to Whispering Pines, and then there's 6 cul-de-sacs, and each cul-de-sac is a grouping of lots, and then in between these groupings, there's space left to prevent, say, a clear cut where all the trees come down, and so there's as much natural buffer between, say, pods of these cul-de-sacs as possible. And don't forget, there's the 100-foot requirement to adjacent properties in the cluster residential regulations, because a cluster residential, there's a tighter density. And so the way their ordinance was written to protect the abutters who have larger lots and less density because they have larger lots, to transition that existing use to this cluster use, there's a 100-foot buffer required. And in this particular case, we didn't have any portion of any proposed lot within that 100 feet. I've done projects in the past where a landowner would own that, but have a restriction over their land, which would create yet another type of an enforcement issue. So in this particular case, that 100 feet is not on anybody's individual lot. It's actually technically...
Between there and there.
Yeah,
Should be
actually,
100 feet.
what I'm really thinking of is for people, I mean, you don't want to make it too convenient for them to go and dump their grass clippings. So if they have to schlep through quite a bit of pine and fallen trees and, you know, all the stuff that I schlep through in my yard, you're not going to get out there to
Dump
the
stuff
brook.
in your yard?
Huh? No, you're not going to get out past that stuff. It's not worth it.
I understand that too, but and again, I can't say how people will take care of their brush and leave debris and whatnot.
So does the I don't know, for lack of a better term, the speckled area here, does that represent the 100-foot?
No, it's more to highlight the overall perimeter of the properties
Okay.
involved. It's actually, quite frankly, it's about 50 feet wide.
50 feet. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. About half.
It just happens to be. It was just something that somebody could visually,
Pick up.
without thinking about it, recognize the overall parcels, the limit of the parcels involved.
So there'd be 2 curb cuts, one on Wire and one on Whispering Pines to get.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing the power lines easement
Yeah,
was
yes.
recently cared for.
I can't say the date of when it was maintained last and all the underbrush was cut.
They're being cut right now.
Yeah.
Is it?
Seems like everything in Merrimack's getting cut right now. So
I hadn't noticed, so I couldn't say.
okay.
Is it just for the sake of having that lot, that there's no buffer on one side against the power lines?
The number of lots and the space to fit them all in, it was desirable at least to have a buffer on one side.
Mm-hmm.
And as we complete our drainage design, we'll know how much more room we have. And it's the desire to have a buffer on both sides. So right now we show it only on the east side of the power line. We're hopeful that we can also create it on the west side. And that's something that can only be determined once we reconcile the volume of drainage going to one basin versus another basin, which is derived once we do the test pits within the next week or so. Then we'll be able to start fixing that more firmly.
So is the planning board expecting something from us because of the new configuration of where the houses are located? Is that,
I'm sorry.
I mean, all the things that I want to, that I'm concerned about that we'll put in a document, but I want to know what it is that they're expecting from us too, so that we don't.
They don't know. I'm not sure that they have any expectation of what your comments might be. However, the process being what it is, because we're in the aquifer zone, regardless that we don't have a DES wetlands permit, because we're in the aquifer zone, that automatically affords your commission the opportunity to comment in a more formal sense as opposed to through the grapevine or what have you. So you, from this discussion, can ask any questions that you like that you need follow-up answers to, in which case I'll provide them, or you can provide comment, or both, and that goes to the planning board, and then that will make its way back to me, and we can either directly incorporate comments into our design as we get into the final design, or we can provide you with responses. At some point in time, if you feel it's prudent or necessary, I can come back and say, we got your comments, we got your questions, hopefully we answered your questions. We think this is reasonable, but we really don't think this is reasonable, or we can't do this, and have a follow-up conversation. I'm not opposed to that at all, but it's really whatever you, and you don't have to think about it while I'm sitting here with you. You can send me on my way, and you can sit down and say, okay, well, we really think this is something we need them to do, or ask the planning board for them to consider. That's the process. So,
And when is your next appointment with the planning board?
well, if I had my way, it probably would be in another month that we would submit, and then it's is it just over 21 days before? So probably 2 months is
Okay.
fairly reasonable, I think, that we would get back before them.
So we have a little time before
Yeah,
we
yeah.
make our comment. Okay.
I mean, for me, quite frankly, the sooner the better.
Yep.
Especially if you have questions. If you, you know, you don't have to be terribly formal, but if you directed Matt through the Conscom email address to send me a list of questions, if you had something that you needed to follow up on, he can email me directly. I can email back to him. He can distribute it. Even if you had a preliminary list of things that you'd like to see before you issued it formally to the planning board, I mean, this is what I do. I'm available, you know, unfortunately more than 9 to 5. It's pretty much not 24/7. So,
And when do you think you'll know more of between 61 acres and 85 acres, what's going to be open space and who it's going to be conveyed to?
Right now, it's well, there's two questions there. After we do our test pits for the specific drainage areas we're targeting, we're going to know what each area volume and rate and how it could be handled, if it's truly infiltration or if it's slightly different. That'll set the stage for several things to fall into place. That could be within 2 to 3 weeks that we start knowing that. As far as the disposition of the open space itself, often that's not known towards the tail end of the approval process. Again, I don't know that the town ultimately wants this 9 acres that could have playing fields. I don't know that. We're saying that it's being offered if the town would like it, but the steps to set that up are numerous, with a lot of input from different people. And, you know, if the Parks and Rec say, no, we don't want it at all.
And sometimes it comes after final approval from the planning board. That those
Sometimes
things are
the
ironed out.
ultimate decision, but it's safe to say we're offering 9 acres. Pretty much it's like 8.8 or so, roughly 9 acres to the town in that capacity. The rest, it might be a homeowners association, because a homeowners association has to be created for these types of developments, and it's in the regulations. So it could be a 166th interest, but maybe that's only, like I said, there's going to be 3 or 4 different open space lots, apparently. They may not have all the same ownership type. But
So
I
if
can't,
the town doesn't want that land for the lots, then you have to come up with some other kind of a,
it could still remain as part of the 166th ownership,
Okay.
or even a separate entity can own that if it was conveyed to a conservation group. All of the lands, we could create a lot line that's from the top of the slope to the north. That lot could then be conveyed to the Audubon Society or Society for the Protection of the New Hampshire Forests if they were so willing to. It could be another party can hold the ownership, but that land is subject to the open space requirements and documents that are in the zoning, and anything else gets added during the approval process. So if the 9 acres or so is not conveyed to the town for recreation, active recreation, it could be absorbed into whatever that lot's going to be, subject to whatever open space requirements and/or conservation easement. So that's why those decisions are generally really close to the tail end of all the other technical design issues. That's more like the last third of the project, the last quarter. That all falls into place.
So that just looks like it's a grassy area with a sandy area there. Is it
And
just
a wetland right in the middle of it.
Okay, all right.
There's a finger of wetland that runs sort of southeast to northwest towards Riddle Brook. It's actually effectively bisected, if you want, in that. When the picture was taken, there was some equipment and storage on the upland adjacent to that, and then there's a small pump house that exists, sewer pump house already, at the near the town line.
So you don't know if that, I mean, I would imagine that land needs to be maintained as far as mowed on a regular basis to keep it the way it is, or it's just going to grow out of.
Yeah, to keep it as say a hayfield,
Yeah.
it would need to be maintained and mowed.
Okay.
So if it was left as passive recreation that didn't have any type of maintenance for mowing, it would regenerate into forest over a number of years, yes.
All right. I mean, and quite honestly, from my point of view, just looking at it, you know, my only concern would be it's way at the edge of town, almost to Bedford. We have all of the stuff at Reed's Ferry.
Yeah.
I mean, we get all those soccer fields, so it's almost like, do we really need that? I don't know.
Understood. And I heard comments like that at the planning board when we had the public input too. You know, it was somewhat detached from town. Someone else responded and said, well, they need to be spread all over town because you can't have everybody always going to the centralized location, and there needs to be opportunities spread around town. We're not saying that the town ultimately wants it or needs it or what have you. We're merely saying this is an option, this is a possibility. It is fields now, which means it's cleared, it's maintained to some degree, it's fairly level. So it's attractive that it's several steps towards what it could be if the town wants to use it that way. But that's really, we could convey it to the town as open space, and you could decide you don't want to do some fields there. You might want to do something else there, as long as it fits within the definition of some of the open space uses. There's an understood limit. You can't put another public structure there, for, fire department or police department. Not that you would. I'm just saying that a structure like that, that doesn't fit the open space requirements. So again, I'm happy to answer questions. If you have some now, I'm more than happy to respond to them. Again, we're not into the final design stage, so this is sort of, I don't want to say early for me to be here talking to you, but I don't think it is, given this project. I'm more interested in hearing your comments and questions at this point. So we don't get to a point where if you had something we can feel is important that we can incorporate, I want to be able to do so. Otherwise, we'd be too far in the process if I came back to you and say, oh, we just got our conditional approval from the planning board. Do you have anything else to say? Then it's a little bit late.
I think where we're going to be a little more interested is when you get your results on the test pits and what's infiltrating. That's where the water is where we're interested.
I'm pretty sure that everything will be infiltrated except possibly where it's the existing sand and gravel pit that's being used as the laydown and storage.
Because
it's already been excavated. It's already been excavated, and the bottom's been altered, and other material has been brought in, and we just don't know to what degree and what depths, and we don't know its final condition. That's one reason why I need to find out, is there a license agreement with Swenson's in the town right now? Is there something that says that, this pit can be used for X, Y, and Z in this fashion for this duration with an end date? So,
I mean, there are lots that are impacted by that. So,
yeah, right along the edge.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'd imagine they need to be out of there before those
Well,
lots go in.
Don't forget while this is a subdivision that we're in the design and approval process to some degree, the construction on this, and we have to come up with some phasing out here too. I'm quite sure that we're not going to be building homes in that pit while it's still being used by the town.
Yeah.
That's years away, and the construction timeline on those projects certainly will be long done.
Do you know if there's a minimum amount of lots that you would need to have this be viable?
That's something
No?
that
Okay.
thankfully I don't get involved with,
Okay.
and in fact I often don't want to even know. It's really none of my business as my business and what we do, the service we provide. It is none of my business, and so I generally try to stay out of their financial matters like that.
So, I mean, I think at this point we'll probably have a bit of discussion, but we're interested in what your results are on the water testing. Yeah.
If you'd like to withhold comment, but if you have additional questions, I'd be happy to receive them. And when we do our test pits and we have some sense on will the majority of this be infiltrated and how much might be part of a wet basin, which is handled slightly differently, I can then send an email and say this is where we are with it. And if probably I'll update an exhibit which zooms in on the area of development.
That would be great.
Okay. Good.
Thank
Anything
you.
else? All right. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. either side of this property.
A lot of what?
Green, McQuaid Brook's right there. You got the whole Bradford Woods open there. You got Watkins Forest too right across.
I think you should ask for the bridge
There's a-
gauge.
Well, I don't need them. But I'm just saying that there's already people down there.
If you look at the color, which was nice, of the-
Yeah, the color. I'm glad you gave this to us.
you, you can see from the pit. There's a road that goes up to the power lines,
Yeah.
and they continue south.
Yeah, you can see it.
You've
Here,
where else are they going?
yeah.
Well, that is private property. That is Swenson's private property right now, and the town used that was a laydown area when they built the Wire Road Bridge. So that was an agreement that the town had with Swenson. So that road that goes in there, I'm not so sure. There's a lot of. I'm not sure how much is out there, but there's people out there.
Hmm.
I mean, I've been out. That was one of the areas. If you looking at this colored piece here to the top left, that's about where we were when we had that. The homeowner was contacting us about they dealt with a beaver issue on their own, but it flooded. You know, we had 6 or 8 feet of water. I mean, it's considerable, and it's because of that Willow Bridge Road. If you walk down that what's labeled there as Willow Bridge Road, you walk into the woods, and in the woods, in the middle of the forest, there is a stop sign. All rusted and falling apart, but it is there nonetheless. So it's amusing. But it's the old bridge abutments right there, and the beaver can build up against it, and boy, it's a hell of a dam. It doesn't go anywhere. So
Yeah, that would be a concern for,
and it doesn't. It backs up. It backs up all the way up Babusick Brook and McQuaid Brook.
This way, because the water flows
Yeah.
east.
let me ask you guys this, because I don't know if you would know more about this than me. The ball fields, in all the years I've been involved in local government, and even when I was on the school board, we had a developer come to us and offer us playing fields because they know that Merrimack needs playing fields. Merrimack needs playing fields. I don't think it really matters where they are as long as we had playing fields, honestly. But I don't think with the wetlands in between there. And again, somebody has to, the grading would be great, but somebody has to pay for creating the fields and maintaining the fields. And I don't know that the town government would commit to that right now. But anyway, they say that as they see it as something that would be desirable, and they think it's going to steer people to support their development. And I personally don't see ball fields happening there. That's just my opinion.
You couldn't put 2.
But anyway,
Yeah.
like I said, I've seen it before. It's standard practice. They say, look, you could have ball fields. If they were to gift land or give us an easement or devote some land to conservation, the Conservation Commission itself instead of the town, is that something that would be desirable for us to?
I think so, because I mean, if you look at this, the Bradford Green area, what's it, Bradford Woods or whatever it's called, I think Bradford Green area or something like that, is literally right here. And then you get across here, you get down here, you get McQuaid Brook that runs down, you got Watkins Forest 2 right here, and now you're coming into the backside of the other, down towards Mitchell Woods and the other Watkins Forest. So I mean, there's a huge greenway right here.
Okay.
So it's a really nice piece of property, and it's very wet. I mean, you get off this field, it drops down low here, and it's very wet, and there's a lot of wildlife in there. It's an interesting area.
Okay.
But he said it's only going to be 9 acres.
The
Ball
field.
field.
Those
The ball-
ball
this-
fields.
this section
Oh,
here,
that was
ball
just for
fields.
the ball field.
So that's a great point. So ball field, yes, I agree with Jody. The ball field would be great. Think of Bishop Field, and this plot of land that sits on. Do you know what Bishop Field is? So you know where the middle school is? There's a field out in front of it, the old Bucher property, the Bishop property. So that parcel, you look at, 2 teams show up to play. The parking lot's full.
Yes.
It's full.
Yes.
Where are they going to park? Up and down Pearson Road. Now you're gonna have people
Right.
walking up and down.
Yeah.
So you could you put one ball field there? Yeah, And then you have to put a bridge over the
Bridge.
wetland,
Yep.
and because you'd have to park on one side of it and walk to the other side. I mean, it's great. It's nice. It would be a nice little area. It'd be a really, you could kind of make it into like a kid's cove because you could get, into this other green area. It'd be neat, but
Nah.
it's just not going to work. I mean, I
People wouldn't even
appreciate
know
it,
it's
but it's
there.
not going to work. Huh?
No. People wouldn't even know it's there.
Well,
Most
I could
people don't.
even get past all of that. It's not a viable spot for.
Yeah.
I said it's what developers do. They offer it up. They think it's desirable. They think it might.
Well, it is. I mean, we
Sway
had a
to
fields
support.
committee, and
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
definitely found it. Yeah, there's a need for it. If we built rectangular fields, we'd use them. So,
Yep.
and look behind the high school. They to that little patch of flat spot, and they made a field out of it just for practice. And it's it's difficult to get to and buggy, and it's awful, but they use it all the time.
So, is it premature for us to send comments to the planning board at this point?
I mean, we could send a comment, but I think we need to know more. And infiltration is, water is one of our prime, what we need to know about to make decisions.
So, can we write to the planning board and tell them that we're interested in the infiltration information?
Yes, and I think Ken already knows that and is going to provide it for
But
us.
still, we could put it in writing to the
Mhm.
planning board, at least to let them know that,
And that is Babusick Brook, which is a protected water source.
yes.
So that's a important piece of water.
And we can indicate our concerns about the potential recreational activities going through the wetlands and going through the brook. And we made preliminary suggestions that if this development comes to fruition, to at least put signage up to educate the residents in the development.
Now, is that something we would want to make a request for? The developer post a certain, distance from the wetlands and post all along it with informational.
Well, we could make a
and-
request that the developer purchase the signs, if you wanted the Conservation Commission to post them, if you're concerned about the location of the posting. You could request that they purchase the signs.
Or make a donation to purchase the signs.
I mean, we've never done it before, but I just think it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
It would have helped a lot in 3 areas that I can think of very recently.
It's a pretty area down there. We're going to go stick signs all over it.
Yes. Rather than them
to
sticking
save
TVs
it.
in it.
Yeah, right, yeah.
Yeah, it's not going to stay pretty. And then when it's, again, like everything else, when it's been around
Think about it.
forever
Think of
and
it.
people know what to do, if you want to take the signs down, you can.
Yeah, but think of
They will.
Think of like Brookside Drive and all that. I mean, there's a whole ton of areas that we have neighborhoods right along the water that there's not really.
That there's tons of grass dumped in.
They dump in that one spot. That's ours. But they don't do it in their own yard. So
They dump in that one spot
Yeah.
that we know of.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So you're worried about the aesthetics. Are you worried
Just-
about anything
I mean,
else?
I'm thinking, you know how much water we have in town, and how much property we have that backs up on, people's residential neighborhoods that back up onto it. Are we going to start posting all of it? We'll go broke and tired.
That's why I think the request is
Yeah.
for them
Them
to
pay.
Pay for the
Yeah.
signs.
pay for the signs. And I would say post it as well. A setback. We decide a setback. They know the setback. And they post along that. I think it's a very, especially if they're going to ease it to the homeowners association. I think we need to educate the homeowners association, or they should educate the homeowners association. We haven't done it before. I think it
Yeah.
would be a great trial.
And we would come up with that wording for the signs.
Yeah, I think they would probably ask us what we want on it. But I don't know. I don't think it's horrible. I don't think it's
I don't think it's horrible. I'm just trying to. I mean, I don't know.
Well, I get what Gage is saying, but this is the way I look at it, Gage, is like, you've got to start at some point.
Yeah, I
So if
get
we
it.
haven't done it before now, doesn't mean we can't start now.
Yeah, that's right.
And we have an opportunity to ask someone who is potentially going to be making a profit to do some education that doesn't cost the Conservation Commission a lot of money, because we spend a lot of money on things. So if it's a private profit-making venture, a lot of houses right near the brook,
You know, a
We-
small price to pay to educate
and
an entire development.
and I think we should ask.
And also, I mean, if in a homeowner's development, they can ask things like they can demand things like you can't park an RV in your driveway.
Oh, yeah, I understand
So
that.
why couldn't we say?
Yeah, it's just saying, we obviously, if it's gonna be a development, I mean, that's something that needs to go into the bylaws of the development, is, you can't dump within the riparian zone or something, something that every homeowner is gonna get. So I just think putting signs on there is just gonna be,
Yeah, the trick is that when a homeowner sells to the next homeowner, to make sure that
I know,
information
yeah.
goes along with that.
Yeah, the sign stays, the
Yeah.
deed goes in a folder and
Yeah.
is never read, as we've seen.
I'm just thinking a lot 50, was that 50, 48, 49, whatever it is?
And 35 with the slope right off
Yeah,
the back of it.
I know, but think about, 40, 48, 49, 50. Probably gonna be the premier lots, those back lots, 37, 36, 35. Those are probably gonna be some of the premier lots. And they're gonna be looking out into this lovely little overthing with big signs saying, "Don't dump,"
Look at SP1
you know?
and look at 35. Look at how steep that is.
Yeah, I know. I
It'd be a
36.
great place to just
Look at 36.
dump.
I know. I'm not disagreeing at all. I'm like, boy, that's going to be a tough. I just think, yeah, we can try it. We can ask.
I think we should at least ask.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And I think maybe we bring it up, we agenda it for a future meeting where where we have some time to discuss what wording looks like on something like this.
Yeah, and that
And
might-
maybe it becomes something that we just
Yeah. Yeah.
we just put into things.
The other
that's
thing,
definitely something, a comment I'd like to make sure we make to the planning board, that we're very concerned, particularly with these lots.
Yeah.
We're very concerned about dumping.
well, the other thing that you could do, quite honestly, is you could say, maybe you could tell them that they have to put a chain link
Recreational
fence.
activities. To do what?
Put a chain link fence along the perimeter of the property so they can't get through there to dump.
I don't think we
I
can.
think we stand a better
I think we
chance
can
with
do that.
signs, but
Yeah.
I get it.
I see what you're saying, but I don't think.
I
we can
think
do that.
Merrimack is starting to understand how important our water is to us. If the proposed pipeline didn't do it and St. Gobain doesn't do it, this might be a small part, but it's a part, and it's a part that we play, and I say ask.
Oh yeah.
What's the worst that's going to happen? We get told no.
Right. And that's why I think it's just a little bit too early to even provide our comments, because we just don't know about the water yet.
Yeah.
So once we have that, we can make a better comment. And between now and then, we have 2 months, so we have 3 meetings to agenda something talking about if signage is right. And I think what I'll do in the meantime is research if other towns do this.
Okay.
Or if we've done it in the past.
Yeah, but I mean, we need to make a comment to the planning board. If we're going to send them a comment, our initial comments and thoughts about this, that
We have concerns with
that we're
wetland.
very concerned about dumping, and we're very concerned about recreational activity in towards the brook area.
Yeah.
And we're interested in the infiltration information, so we look forward to hearing more.
I can imagine having these lots buried if there's no buffer on the
Against the power lines, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That, I mean, that'd be a hard sell. We'd think.
So our 3
Valid buffer.
comments are: we have concerns with potential wetland impacts by recreational vehicles and by recreation.
By recreational use.
Expanded usage of the wetlands by recreational vehicles.
Okay. Concerns with dumping near wetlands.
Potential for dumping, yep.
And the third thing is interested in hearing more regarding
Infiltration.
the infiltration, the
Yep.
water infiltration.
Yep.
Yeah, the test pit information.
Is it necessary to specify dumping, like yard waste and stuff, or you just want to leave it as dumping?
Just dumping, I think is good.
Okay.
You know, dumping TVs, dumping grass.
Okay, great.
No
I will make
beavers
that
shall be
comment.
harmed.
What?
No beavers shall be harmed.
Yeah, there's a lot of activity into there.
And then I think it's a great idea to put it on a future agenda to discuss potential for requests for signs.
Yeah, if our May 16th isn't that busy.
Yep, no, that'd be great.
Anything else on this?
Because we would know about donation till the last minute, right?
Yeah.
Well, it depends. I mean, if there, is their intent, if the developer's intent is to donate their property, they have told us in the past up front, like, look, we you know, we're interested in this. We don't want any part of this.
Right.
So, which is good. You know? And we also encourage anyone else listening that if they have property that they're not concerned or are concerned about and would like to have an easement, we're more than willing to talk to you.
Yes.
All right, moving to old business. The Ned Pipeline. I'm sure you have more than I do on this.
I'm not so sure about that, Matt. Well, big news. They've indefinitely suspended the project. I think you guys all know that. You probably know just as much as I do, honestly. And since then, I see they've written to the, what's the Massachusetts?
DPU?
DPU, we're PUC, they're DPU. They requested a 30-day stay, which was granted.
Yep, so that's till May 26th.
All right. They have not formally withdrawn their application. The town manager did have a conversation with Eric Tomasi, right? Is that his name? Of FERC, trying to get information out of him. And, of course, he was vague as he usually is. Suspended is not technically a category
Report to the courts.
that FERC recognizes. Either you have an application in or you withdraw your application. So those are the two statuses that FERC recognizes. And Eric told the town manager that he has seen pipeline projects on hold with an application in for, he said the longest he ever saw it was 8 years before it was reactivated again. He said, but he has seen quite a few after 5 years, they become active again. So we really don't know. There's rumors going around. I won't say any rumors because I really don't know anything that it's true or not. I wouldn't say publicly, but I just, until they withdraw their application, which I'm not really confident is going to happen, I don't think the project is completely off the shelves. There was a really good Laura Canoy, what is her show? The Exchange?
I don't know.
On public
On
radio.
New Hampshire Public Radio. She did an interview with, I'm trying to think now who all the players were. There was the PUC, the Consumer Advocate,
Yeah,
David Brooks from the Concord Monitor, Tony Buxton from, I can't remember everybody's titles.
Coalition to Lower Energy Costs.
So he's pro.
Well,
And
he's
then-
the attorney for Kinder Morgan.
Yep, and then James Roach, who's the president of the business.
Business, BIA, what is that?
BIA stand for, I can't remember, but it's basically the New Hampshire Business Association, and it was a very interesting interview. It wasn't quite an hour, it was maybe like 45 minutes. If you guys have a chance to listen to that, there was all kinds of, in addition to speculation about what's going to happen, there was some really good factual information presented by all the people, all the panel. So, Milford has recently written to FERC requesting that You guys saw the letter I sent it to you, asking for their money back, so I was like, kudos to
Good
them.
luck.
Well, no, they didn't ask alone. They said they referenced the
The
state.
entire,
They
Yeah.
referenced the communities that are along
Yeah.
the pipeline have
Yeah.
are all have spent, and they're right.
Yeah.
Expended a lot of money and time.
so, anyway, so we're a little bit in limbo right now. It was definitely a small victory, I think, but I'm not convinced that the whole thing is over and done with just yet. So we shall see.
I'd like to speak to our lawyer about next steps. I mean, literally, our lawyer, our real lawyer, and what should we do? I mean, how do we shelve this? How do we package it up and shelve it so it's available to be taken out again as a smoking gun and say, look.
Well, I
don't
think
want-
we should continue moving forward
Right,
with
exactly.
the studies of the property that the new route was going through. I think we need to keep doing all the things that we said we were going to do. I don't think it would hurt us to finish writing that letter regarding need and just keep
Absolutely.
going the same way we were going before any of this.
Problem with writing the letter for need, because I was going to continue going along. The reason that they've asked for this 30 days is they're going back to talk to customers.
Right.
So the numbers are going to change. They're either going to change what they really need to do is they need to sign on a gas-fired power plant. Because if they don't get a gas-fired power plant, then they can't pass the $3.1 billion expense off to us, the ratepayers for electric, which they want to put on our tariff. So right now, they don't have a gas-fired power plant signed up. They have a lot of local energy, local gas companies like Liberty, like Berkshire, but unless they have something that's going to source electricity, not just gas, then they can't charge us for it. Access Northeast, which is that's powered by Spectra. Spectra is in partnership with Eversource. They have gas-fired power plant. So right now, I think they see that Access Northeast would be the one that would get FERC approval, even though Access Northeast doesn't seem to have as many small individual gas customers like Liberty. So for those who are playing along net at home with us,
Right.
this is why they have stopped, because they don't have the gas-fired power plant.
So we wait and find out and have those.
Well, I
I
figured,
mean, a good part of it's written already anyway.
yeah, I just figured I'd wait until the 26th to see what they
Oh,
come up with,
absolutely.
and that way I can go through, tweak the letter as necessary, and send it off. Because right now, even Kinder Morgan is saying we don't need this. So it's like for us to send a letter, FERC's going to be like, yeah, I know, we know. Kinder Morgan just said that. So I'm waiting to see if they come back and say, no, we do need it, for us to say, let's look at the new information and let's see, rework the letter. Because
Makes
otherwise,
sense.
we're just going to have to send the letter a second time.
Well, when Tim comes back, we can ask him to reach out to our attorney.
I will do that. He kind of mentioned that before, so I will. I haven't done it yet, so I will
Okay.
reach out to her and see what suggestions, or advice that she has. I do anticipate that there will be more towns filing like Milford to say,
Yeah,
you need to
yeah.
pull the plug on
Yeah.
this. There was actually a really good submittal by NH Plan today that I just sent out.
Oh, I didn't see that
Kind
one.
of recapped everything. It's really good, very powerful. So
The
I can't imagine it going on being suspended for 8 years. I mean, it's
Well,
just crazy.
Yeah, the reason that they
It's a
wanted,
backlog project.
Oh.
Yeah, that's an investment.
the reason that they wanted everything done by 2018 was because Bearhead and Paraday were supposed to have their
Export license, yeah.
expert done by 2018. They were going to open in 2019, so they wanted to be all set and ready to ship that gas up there. That's why everyone was rushing to get everything done by 2018.
I mean, there should be a time limit. You can't just put a project on hold for 8 years.
Yeah, I think every other permit we deal with, there's a
Yeah.
FERC. Sure, whatever. Just
I know, right? Exactly.
we only answer to the courts.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd like to think that the resistance in the Northeast has something to do with it. I suspect it's all about money, because money seems to run everything.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think some good has come from it, because I think there's a big old spot. There's a lot of people that live in the Northeast, a lot of educated people, and I think a big spotlight has been shown on FERC and the whole process, and I'm really hoping that there is potential for some major overhaul of the process as a result of this. I'm not going to get my hopes up too high, but I think we have a greater chance now of having it happen than we ever had before. So
Yep.
I think there's a lot more attention between New York State, Connecticut, Massachusetts, and New Hampshire. I think we've done a great job of educating people. Anything else I've missed?
Did you see the article in today's Telegraph?
Yeah, I don't want to talk about that one.
She shuts off the microphone.
Just in case.
I have not seen it yet. What?
Will they talk about how the opposition did help?
Amherst.
Yes.
Oh, yes. Yeah, I saw that, yeah.
And how Amherst did a great job rerouting the pipeline around sensitive areas, so that's why I don't want to talk about it.
Safer.
I was
Safer.
good. I didn't comment on the Telegraph.
I sent a message to Cindy.
Yeah.
Got it out of my system.
Amherst also, I'm not sure what it was, Amherst is also rated one of the top 10 New England villages. I'm not sure what the study was, but
Okay.
we love Amherst.
Let's take up something we can take action on, which is the Horse Hill Nature Preserve Amherst Road parking lot expansion. So we all received an email from Kyle, 2 pages, the second of which is a spreadsheet.
So I have a question for you guys. Is there a reason, if there is, tell me why we wouldn't want to go with the least expensive price?
Well, come on. Why can't we go for the $54 million? I'm like reading, like, I was like,
54 million?
wow,
Yeah.
that really says $54 million?
It does.
I know. I was when they were talking about doing the extra piece. I just like put this in my calculator because I'm like,
I just
Not even
glanced
thinking,
at
and then I was
that.
like,
That
oh my God.
54,000.
Yeah.
I know. 'Cause
Well,
it was
I'm looking at
highlighted.
all the numbers, and I'm looking at the scope, and I'm trying to figure out
Clearing
the
and
major
grubbing.
differences between.
Clearing and grubbing, 21,800,000.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. You know, obviously they put some. They missed a zero. You know, they missed a decimal point in a couple places.
Asbestos
point-
scrubs.
At some point in time, they look at the project and say, you know, a couple hundred square feet, $54 million. And like, wait a second, I did something wrong.
Wow. Hey, they're out.
It's like, wow, that's amazing.
Well, my question is, so if the engineer's estimate was higher,
88,000.
yeah, how can these other companies come in so much lower?
So, if you look at Kyle's email, he explained why one of the contractors came in where they did,
Mm-hmm.
because they don't have to move their equipment. They're currently located over
On
on Tomasian and
Yeah.
Pollard. So some of their equipment's on one side of the project, some of their equipment's on the other side. There's no transportation.
So their staging fees are nil.
Okay. I mean, that's a pretty big difference, though,
Yep.
between.
Yeah, and again, and Kyle's comment that, you know, based on the little bit, and, you know, blah, 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 based on the success they've had on 2 subdivision projects. So, I
Right.
mean, if they've been dealing with them, and they've worked with them on 2 projects, and they're happy with them, you know.
Yeah, we don't have to worry about it just being a low ball
Yeah.
bid. Yeah.
Also discuss whether to pay the lot of town construction given the favorable.
Does the town have experience with any of those, the couple of the lower bidders?
Well, yep. Did you read that?
Well, the thing, the low bidder is
Yeah.
this one company, and
Is somebody that the town has experience
that's,
with.
that's the one
Oh,
that
yeah,
they've
how do you
used for two.
recommend?
Mhm.
Yeah.
for two
And comes
projects.
recommended, yep.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, well, there we go.
So we'd have to make an additional decision about paving the parking lot.
Yep. But I don't know if we need to make that decision now.
We could have some discussion on it.
Discussion, but I don't think we need to make a decision because that's not being done by this contractor.
So explain to me how this works too, because I've never gone through this process before, you guys. When we as a commission, we decide who we award the bid to? Is that up to us to do?
Well, we're paying for
We're
it
paying
out
for
of,
it.
Okay.
potentially
So-
paying for it out of Fund 53, so.
Okay.
We have all the decision-making power.
All right.
And it's on the agenda tonight, so we could potentially make a decision tonight
Okay.
regarding which contractor, when to start.
And then we name that contractor publicly when we vote and make the decision.
Tonight,
Okay,
if
all
we,
right.
if we choose to do so.
Okay, and then the paving, we don't have to decide tonight, but we can have discussion.
Correct. And
Right.
I
Because the paving would not be done by this contractor.
Weren't we using
We
reused
could use
asphalt?
reground, we could, yeah, I mean,
Yes.
you look at Kyle's comments, it's, the additional cost to pave the lot, blah, 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 as meant is with the town's paving company, it's not this contractor. It's someone that they already got a
Yeah,
contract with.
35
And it
or
was just
40.
a rough estimate at a 3-inch depth
Yeah.
that it would be in the $35,000 to $40,000 range. In addition to what DNS or one of the other contractors would be doing to prep the site.
So in the end, this is going to be like a $90,000.
Well,
if we
if
pave, I mean, if we
yeah.
if we use the reground, it's
I'm not convinced that we should pave, but let's talk about the bids first.
yes.
Are
Take it
you
in two
prepared to
steps.
entertain a motion to recommend?
Yes.
All right, I don't know about timeframes. You guys would have to tell me. I'll make the motion. Do I have to include the time frame when the project would start in my motion?
No.
Okay. I make a motion that the Conservation Commission accept the bid. Do I need to state the dollar amount?
Yes.
Okay. I can't, these numbers are too small. I can't read them.
56,000?
Is it in the letter?
54 million.
All right. I move that the Conservation Commission accept the bid from DNS Excavating for
56,000.
hang on a minute, for the dollar amount of $56,431.40
From
for the Horse Hill Nature Preserve parking lot expansion
Fund
from Fund 53? Second.
discussion.
Tim would be so proud of us.
Yeah.
I think one of the great pieces that comes with this is since Kyle is managing the two other projects and he's there on site, he said that he would take point in managing DNS on this project as well,
Nice.
which is a great donation or agreement with his time, and I think that comes with a cost that we don't have to pay for on its own because one of us doesn't have to go and make sure and be the go-between there. So I think that's great. And he said that they also would prep the site for whatever material we decide. So if we decide to pave, if we decide to use the reground, it's going to be there for us. So I just think that increases the benefit of the DNS excavating
Yes.
offer. Any other
We're
discussion?
discussing the motion
Yeah.
before we vote.
Anything else?
I think just to simplify that Kyle's recommendation, I mean, this is, he's done this, he's built these, he's been involved in this. I'm going to default to our town engineer, so licensed engineer.
Well, especially since we have experience with this contractor
Right.
too.
Yeah. And he helped us write the bid.
Bid.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that's the same. And his credence is, I'm going to default to his knowledge and his ability. So
This is a big spend,
Yeah, it is.
Yep.
but it's something
I
that,
think it's very worthwhile, though. I
Yeah.
mean, that's a heavily used area.
Yep.
You know?
and it's taking 20-something to 62
Yep.
with handicap accessible parking
Mhm.
Yep.
and, fitting it into the space that we currently have, so. All right. All those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
Hmm.
That takes it 6-0-0.
Are you ready to talk about the paving?
Yes.
I personally, I'm not really in strong support of paving it. I'm not in strong support. I understand you can have more spaces. I understand the benefits to that, but I also understand this is a conservation area. You don't see a lot of paved parking lots for conservation area. And $56,000 is a lot of money, and this could potentially be $35,000 to $40,000 on top of that. And to me, I just can't. I can't warrant the expense.
Just a quick question: are you lumping fresh pavement and reground into the same category?
You're really against the fresh pavement.
Well, I don't know about the reground. I mean, is the reground still going to be $35,000 to $40,000?
No. And it's impervious. When a raindrop hits it, it doesn't flow to whichever way it's sloped.
It tends to percolate through.
It
Can you line reground?
Yes. It doesn't last like it does with pavement. I mean, if you've been to the Wasserman Park lower lot, they reground that right after a strip, so it was still hot when they put it back down and rolled it. It came out beautiful, and they put stripes on it, and it looked great. This fall, it looked fantastic. After the winter, when it got plowed maybe 10 times, you can hardly see the stripes. So it holds. It doesn't hold water, but it doesn't hold stripes either.
So in
But
the benefits to reground, so if we were to do reground, I mean, because my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, is paving this in however way we choose to pave it is so that we have more parking spaces, right? Or is there another benefit that I'm not recognizing?
one of the benefits is you've kind of delineated where you can park. And when it's dirt, I can fit my car over here. When the parking lot gets full, I think you're going to get a lot more people just kind of edging off to the side.
Like they are now.
It's like think of when there's a puddle in the trail, people tend to walk around it. Now the trail starts doing this, and this will be a chance to define the parking area.
So is there a problem that's been caused by people making their own parking areas?
At this facility, I'd say yes. I mean, look, they're up and down the road. They're jamming into this.
Yeah, but having this
with that.
paved won't affect that.
Having this pave is going to help with keeping people off the road.
Exactly.
You think it will?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
You have more than twice the spaces.
But don't we have that without it being paved?
No.
With the
Well-
expansion, we have more spaces.
Yeah, with the expansion, we don't have people parking on the road
Right.
still.
No, I'm talking about just the paving, not the expansion.
I mean, I think we're going to
I
get.
think I'm missing your
couple
questions.
more
Can
spots?
Can you start over and start from the beginning and ask the question because I'm missing where you're going.
And let's rule out the real pavement.
Yeah, I am not
New
interested.
asphalt.
I'm not interested in $35,000-$40,000 of
Yeah,
pavement.
so we're going to rule that out, right?
Is there
After that.
consensus on that?
Yeah,
Okay.
because one of the abutters actually expressed concern over the weekend if it was pavement
Yeah.
in his well, if things were running off.
Yep.
So if it's the reground, you said it would just,
All right. So
it's
let's
impervious, so,
get rid of that one.
yeah.
Well, okay, but to that end, reground pavement is still a petroleum-based product. So if he still has, if he's got concerns about his well, then that is something that we need to consider. I mean, it's still petroleum-based.
All right, so it's
So-
not as much what, I think he was worried about something from people's cars, but you're right, it's in the actual,
Yeah, so,
Material.
I mean, if he's worried about runoff,
yeah.
runoff of a flat parking safe sheet flow off towards his well, that's one thing.
Yeah.
If he's worried about, petroleum-based, you get some bleed through. I mean, there's not going to be a lot, but there's going to be some. I mean, pavement doesn't last forever.
Well, that's the other thing too, is if you pave, don't you need to put that, yeah, and that's pretty toxic stuff. So,
You don't have to.
but it won't last as long,
And it won't hold the lines
right?
as well.
Yeah. But the other thing too is if you're going to put just gravel or something down, I guess looking at the cost of how often would you have to replace the gravel, every year, or
That's what we're doing now, is grading it once a year.
so how much does that cost a year?
It's right now done by a volunteer.
That's a lot of work.
It's a smaller
Small
lot, though.
parking lot.
Once this becomes the bigger lot, yes, it would be a lot of work to ask someone to volunteer that much time and machine cost to.
And
Or-
to purchase the gravel too.
I really think that we could take a look at it once it's done, graded, gravel, and see if we could use something like,
Like a repack or something.
trees in the middle to define the lines, down trees.
Yeah, I've seen that
And
before.
yeah, mark the tree with, this is a parking spot, this is a parking spot, this is a parking spot.
I like that idea
I've seen that
better.
in some of the state parks
Yeah.
even.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And start with something like that,
See how it works.
and eventually maybe have to do something else. But I think more than doubling the size of it, we're going to at least get people off Amherst Road. So we have a benefit there.
For a while.
Well, and we don't know when we'd be
Until
able
it becomes
to.
more popular,
get
and then we
anything.
fill up that lot, and it does the same thing.
Yeah, we're
And-
doubling.
and
or
again-
more than doubling.
Oh, it's more than doubling.
And again, we have a 300
Exactly.
spot parking lot
Right.
Right,
on the
that's-
other side.
Yeah. I know, I absolutely.
So we could also wait and see and revisit, and should you decide you want to put something down
Yep.
next year or the year after, we can do it. I personally would rather do that. I'd rather wait and see and be conservative for reasons that Cindy's mentioned, for, and even just for the cost of it. I just,
Well, we don't know when it'd be available anyway. Remember last time I was here, he said they didn't have any plans.
Right. The repack, the reground is only going to be available to us if we're paving.
Well, it doesn't necessarily have to come from the
Right.
town of Merrimack
Right.
either.
Oh.
Yeah, but then
DOT.
now we're into transportation fees.
but they pave every year. So if we decided we wanted to do it, they pave every year.
Right. We typically, Kyle's comment was they didn't have anything on the docket for this summer, which is when we'd be potentially doing this.
So that parking lot will be plowed in the winter, correct?
Yeah.
So
I think it is now.
Oh, we could be talking to the town about using equipment for grading. That might be something a discussion we'd have to have, because it would just be too big. for-
Yeah, I mean, the maintenance cost, I assume, is going to increase
Yes.
Yeah.
from nothing to something.
Right. Yeah.
That's my 2 cents.
Obviously, the harder surface that's there, the less ripped up it's going to be with paving and with parking and mud season and all that. So I do like the reground thought. I'm not a fan of the pavement, but the reground, that's something. If we have a project going on, it's going to make that a good surface. It's only going to sheet flow a little bit, and with a hard rain, most of the time it's going to percolate through. So, and we can paint it. I mean, there's other paints. There's epoxy-based paints that will go down and line it there, it's going to be a lot more money. But if we're really worried about lining it, it's going to be every couple of years to do it as opposed to every year. So
I think I missed something then. So what's the price difference if it's 35 to 40,000 if the parking lot is paved?
Additional.
Additionally.
Additional. Then how much would it be for the reground?
Not quoted here.
yeah, it's
Not
what it-
quoted,
No,
okay.
and I think
do
we had
have a-
some discussions before you came on about that too, that was thrown out. I don't remember if we
Yeah,
had
Kyle,
numbers.
Kyle was here one night, and he did give us kind of a breakdown of cost of pavement versus reground, and
Okay.
we just have to we'd have to go back and figure out when he was
See if
here.
I can find it for you, Gina, and send it to you.
But there's going to be a parkable surface down when DNS is done. So, we're going to have, ready access to it once they're done their work.
Yeah, which would be some kind of compacted stone dust type of
Right.
surface.
Yeah,
So
'cause-
we'd be talking about putting something on top of that, whether it's reground, real pavement, some variation,
Yeah.
the impervious pavement now.
Yep.
There's, there are different options.
Right.
So we don't have to decide tonight on that.
Impervious concrete. That's so wicked cool.
They put
That's
some of that behind
that
my
was in the
retaining wall.
$54 million quote. Over there.
Yeah, that's right.
Did you put some in?
That retaining wall in my backyard, he put
Porous-
right,
porous
concrete that water percolates through
Wow.
behind the stone, the fake stone wall. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. There's
The
a
retaining.
porous concrete that
Yeah, it's porous.
they show them fire hose, and it's just like porous. It just disappears.
Wow.
Porous concrete.
Yeah, it's like, oh, that's awesome.
That's cool.
It's like a magic trick.
All right.
And-
Any more discussion on paving?
Well, not on the paving, but, so I believe we're still going to try and find the water main that's under the parking lot, right? And possibly tap into it to use for plantings around there.
There's a water line that runs from Listoka Farm across the.
Mm.
Yep.
So they want to find it when digging up the
I'm
parking lot.
I'm pretty sure John knows right where that is.
Okay.
Yeah, he'd be the first person to ask.
Mm-hmm.
So we need to connect Kyle with John
Mm-hmm.
prior to start.
Yeah, because there's the
Yeah.
the well is
Yeah.
is across. You know where the well is?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's got a well house over it
Right.
now.
Yeah, so
Did we
that's
talk about that before, or was that at the subcommittee?
That was at the subcommittee.
Yeah, I don't remember that here.
Oh,
I
we
don't
didn't
remember that
okay.
conversation, so I think that
Remember
must
which
have been
one,
the
sorry.
subcommittee.
well, we have spoken about it here before, but the fact that the well was there, but not
Yeah.
not trying to tap into it. I didn't realize that we were trying to tap into it. But
Mm-hmm. So
Is that a- is
Roland
that a-
will be there.
is that a pump?
No, it's
Just a pressure? It's just groundwater pressure.
yes.
Wow.
Yeah. And it runs all winter. He leaves it open in the winter
Yeah.
so that it doesn't freeze.
But they would blow it out, the piece, if they can get some piece up, they'll blow it out so that it doesn't freeze.
So can you connect somebody with Kyle,
Mm-hmm.
Cindy? That'd probably be the best thing. I would do that now. I wouldn't wait.
Yeah. John and
Do
Roland.
you know John?
I don't know John, but I think Roland knows John,
Yeah.
right? Okay. So he's already got the plan. And then the other thing, so, I mean, I know we were hoping to do this right away, but does this company go out and look, all the birds are nesting right now and the squirrels are being born? Are they going to look at any of these trees before they chop them down? Mm-hmm.
I would guess no.
Not unless we ask them to,
Mm-hmm.
or we give them the time frame of when they can go in there.
Mm-hmm.
There'd always be something going on.
So we should go in there and start lighting off fireworks now. Get them out. Listen, way away. She's at striking distance.
Yeah, I know. Yeah,
That pens looks very mobile.
yeah, that's right. I know, right?
We'd have to give them
Mm-hmm.
the determination of when nesting seasons and hatching seasons are over, I suppose,
Mm-hmm.
before they can go in there and do their work.
I mean, I don't know how many trees this is that we're talking about.
I would imagine that what's there, the opening that's there now,
Mm-hmm.
is going to slightly more than double. So if you walk into that area now, which we did,
Yep. Mm-hmm.
it's a very dead
Isn't it?
pine forest. It's pinned, yeah.
Yeah, so we know physical
Bounds. I mean, you can walk out there now and see it's not a very large area,
Yeah.
and it's a dead pine forest with not too much going on in there.
There's really not a lot of.
So how does the time frame work? Do we work with the contractor to see when it fits their schedule and when we think?
Kyle has offered to do that for us,
Okay,
and he said it would start almost immediately.
okay.
So as soon as we heard back from him, I'd contact the subcommittee so we could put up signs, warning people that it's going to be closed for a month,
Warning
2
people that
months.
they can use the
Watch the
giant parking lot on the other side.
Right, yeah.
Which, in all actuality, we should put that on the kiosk anyways, just so people know. Just exactly, that's the reason they don't use it. No one understands it. It's over there and it connects.
All right, so that's two things that we need to do then. We need to make sure that we've got the signs up there. So the subcommittee said they would do those once they knew when the project was starting, so we need to get that information to the subcommittee. And then we need to have Kyle connect with the person who's interested in the potential for tapping water. Okay.
Thanks, Cindy.
Thank you.
Well, no new business, and the other business is quite light. We typically have a couple of things, but we haven't recently had a subcommittee meeting with a lot of topics on it. However, I guess I could cover some of the Greater Woods subcommittee topics. We're in the process of meeting to talk about Class D trails out at Greater Woods, and the Class D trail is for motorized single track trails in Greater Woods. They don't currently have a Class D trail right now, but they've proposed a number of them, and we're in the process of going to review some of them. And I think it's a good time because we've proposed gates now, and I think showing the subcommittee where these gates would likely be placed would give them some idea of access around the gates, or access in common with the gates.
Just so everyone knows, we were up in front of town council. I mean, pretty much all of us were there, but just so everybody knows, we were in front of town council, and we did get approval to unclassify that road, that Class 6 road. It's now going to be not a road. It's just going to be
Greater Road is what you're talking
Greater
about.
Road. Yeah, that's a small section of that.
South Greater.
South, yeah, and we're on. It's also going to be considered a section of it's going to be now an emergency lane, and that's going to allow us to gate both ends of it. So there is going to be, and then our own, the Greater Woods work is going to be done to rebuild that section of road on a higher ground, so we can bypass that beaver pond, which is the wet area, which is causing the problem. So.
You guys should talk about the cleanup too, and the other topic that you're in front of the town council for.
Yes. So updates on the old target shooting range on South Greater Road. DPW workers and equipment combined with subcommittee and conservation commission volunteers. A lot of us were there. Very successful cleanup of a very messy and ugly area out there, and the installation of no target shooting signs on one of our most shot at areas in town. We had some great feedback from public as well. very happy that we cleaned this area up and closed it down.
During that day, while we were there.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got a lot of people that were, we had a number of people walking through, didn't realize what was going on, and were very happy about what was going on, so.
Abutters that were very happy to hear that there'd be less ordinance.
And then the town council unanimously voted to support posting town-owned land against prohibiting target shooting as well, after listening to the presentation from the Conservation Commission.
So very, in my mind, and I think in
Was it 3 one-ton trucks full of stuff?
Yes.
yes, yeah, I think
Backhoes.
Yeah.
And a full crew. I mean, there was five guys, right? Yeah.
That's great.
tires,
Brand new one.
TVs,
Oh, brand new tire.
license plates, several license plates,
Fire extinguisher, propane.
Propane
tanks,
tanks.
TVs,
tailgates of pickup trucks.
refrigerator. There was quite a lot of
players.
there was quite a lot of speakers, amplifiers. Wow.
Yeah, too many clay pigeons to even count.
Yeah.
So it was a great cleanup, great success, and so far it looks like the area is being respected. So that's the best outcome, I guess. Additionally, there was one other. Yeah. So we we also posted the roads in and out. So at this point, the police are respecting the landowner, which is the Conservation Commission in the town of Merrimack, the landowner's decision to post the entire area. So it's not just the shooting pit that is, no target shooting. It's all town-owned, Conservation Commission-owned parcels of Greater Woods that are no target shooting. So from the school to BB Lane
Not
area.
just Greater Woods,
Yeah.
but all town-owned property.
Yeah.
And once again, just to clarify, we are not banning hunting from those properties that currently allow hunting. So that's not the case. We're not taking away anybody's right to carry their gun, but there will be no target shooting right now on those properties. And if caught, the police can enforce that with trespassing
Right.
and potentially littering charges.
Great. I don't have anything else, and we don't have minutes to present.
Do you need a motion to adjourn?
Go around?
Yeah. Commissioner
sorry.
comments? Cindy?
I don't have anything.
You got him back.
Yeah.
Oh, we now said at the
Yeah.
It's only that meeting. I mean, it's only that
All right.
camera.
Saturday, and as I said, I'm not going to be here, so I don't know who's.
Do you need help to be there?
I'll be there.
I think we got. I'll be there.
I'll be there for a little bit.
Yeah,
I can't stay the whole
obviously
time.
encourage anyone to go. It's just fun. I mean, Eber's a great host, and he's a great historian. So you go in there, and people want to talk and just chit chat, and have questions, and talk about trees. It's an interesting day. Last year, we were treated to a small little pack of fox that were on display out there. Oh, they were adorable. They were out there playing, and they finally got tired, and just fell asleep on the stump, so everyone could go over and stare at them. So that was really interesting. But it's an interesting day. It's a nice group. It's everyone's in there for the seedlings, and everyone's having a nice time and smiling. So it's a nice outing. But if you're going to be there,
Tags. Great.
tags and pens. So, and the receipt.
Oh, get that to Tim.
Yeah.
Okay.
You don't mind? I can keep it. Doesn't matter.
Get it to Tim. Mike?
I have no further comment.
Just so, I know at one meeting you guys mentioned that there was a bobcat up by, was it Joppa Hill Road? Someone said
It's-
that there was a bobcat up there.
Mitchell Woods.
Okay, so I'm not sure if there's more than one, but we have one down near my house now. We just saw it. It's actually down by Continental, the Tinker Road to Continental. My neighbor saw it. So just so you know, they're on the move. They're on the prowl. I don't know if
They're
it's
very
the same one.
very elusive critter. They don't like to be
Photographed.
seen. Yeah. No, they're pretty elusive. So
Yeah,
there's
well,
there's probably more in town than we know about, but there's not a lot of sightings because they're
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we do have. I know we have fox, and quite a few. She is. She feeds the birds, and it probably was checking out to see what was around. She had quite a flock of red-winged blackbirds. So, but anyway, yeah, it was there, and she was pretty careful to make sure she identified it, and that it wasn't just a regular old tabby cat. It was, it had the tufts and the short tail and the kind of the haunchy
Yep.
thing. So, and I trust that she knows she's pretty astute when it comes to wildlife. But yep, they're on the move.
Neat.
Oh,
No.
very cool. And they're safe.
for the time being. Yes.
Yeah.
I don't have anything.
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
All those in favor? Great. We adjourn at 8:37.
Excellent meeting. You did a great job.